My 1971 trip to Europe starts on a DC-8 flight to Amsterdam. On June the 12th, the Queen of England's birthday, people come from all over England and all over the world to see the Troop the Colour. Here is one of the royal carriages during the Troop the Colour. The main ceremonies take place inside the grounds of Buckingham Palace. The different guards march out Buckingham Gate after their drill for the Queen. And here we see the Royal Air Force salutes the Queen. Here is Piccadilly Circus, the famous shopping center area in London, taken at night. Here is one of the older buildings in London. And here is Trafalgar Square in London. And here is St. Paul's Church, which our guide will tell us a little bit about.
II came back to the throne in the 17th century. He got hold of a man called Christopher Wren, and he said, let's get this back on a proper basis again. And Christopher Wren, the borough surveyor of the time, started to renovate the old St. Paul's. In 1665 we had a great plague, and then the following year a great fire. It cleansed the earth and did away with the plague, thank goodness, but it also demolished many of the buildings, including old St. Paul's Cathedral. But it gave Christopher Wren his great opportunity to build the building we see today.
And the Tower of London.
The Tower of London. It's not one single tower, it's a collection of towers that make up the Tower of London. And from the earliest time in the Roman days, there was a fortress of a kind here.
And here is one of the Tower Guards. And here is the Tower Bridge.
1894 by the City Corporation, and it cost £1.5 million, which was quite a lot in those days. It's a couple of drawbridges which divide in the middle and let the tall ships in from the sea into the Pool of London, which is where we're now standing.
And Westminster Abbey.
The flag flies from there. That's the way the Queen goes into open Parliament. From there to the central tower is the House of Lords. From the central tower to the clock tower is the House of Commons, which houses the clock tower, which I told you was called the Hour Bell, which was called Big Ben after Sir Benjamin Hall, who was Commissioner of Works when the bell was hung.
Here is Buckingham Palace at the changing of the guard. The guard's band marches back to their barracks after the change of the guard. This is Miss Lanaway's home economics class. And here is the 6th grade class in science. The boys are in science class, while the girls are in sewing class. Miss Lanaway ate with me at the Kentucky House while I was visiting in London. Here is the House of Parliament. And here we look out the window of the plane as I'm flying back from London to Amsterdam. And here are some scenes of Amsterdam from the terrace of the hotel. Here is a ship in one of the larger canals in Amsterdam. This ship is being dry docked. It will be raised completely out of the water to be shaved. It is said to be shaved because scraping the barnacles from it reminds one of shaving. This is a large ship being towed by tugboat. Building number 7 here, the smallest building in Amsterdam.
Window and one door. The red door leads out to the diamond standing open.
Cars are parked along the canal, and if one happens to roll into the canal, you must pay to have it towed back out of the canal, which cost 85 guilders. Here is a 15th century jail. You'll notice that each house has a hoisting cable to raise furniture to the upper floors.
The hoisting beams had been built in the 17th century because the staircases were very narrow too, and you couldn't take the furniture up, or the merchandise, whatever it was. So you had to hoist it up. It means the hoisting beams, here it goes, at the corner. So as you can see, we still do it. It's just the only way to get to the upper floor. Although people of Amsterdam always say that the hoisting beams are specially for lifting up drunk people.
In case you couldn't understand our guide, she said the people in Amsterdam say that the hoisting beams are built especially for lifting up drunk people. You can also see that here many people ride their bikes to work and school, and here are some parked along the canal. Through here, there are 7 little bridges along the canal. And now we visit a diamond cutting factory.
Mineral in the world. Diamond is crystallized carbon, and it comes in all colors, all forms. If carbon crystallizes with other minerals, you get color in it, and that's why the whiter the diamond, the more the value. If you have a real white diamond, you have pure carbon, and after polishing those facets, the best reflection. They find diamonds in South Africa, Congo, Tanganyika, Sierra Leone, and in Brazil, but most diamonds from Brazil are black and mainly used for industrial purposes like needles of record players, dentist drills, oil drills, machinery tools, and so on. Less than 2% of all the diamonds which are found in the world can be used for jewelry, and here in this factory we only polish diamonds for jewelry, and they all come from the Kimberley mines in South Africa. They have the best qualities and the best colors.
And here is a city scene from a canal bridge. Here is the Munt Tower. In English, Munt means mint. The old coin factory was once located here. Here we see the royal carriage. And now we arrive at The Hague. This is the Peace Palace. Several important peace treaties have been signed here. now in Brussels, Belgium, some scenes of the Grand Plaza. The story of this statue is that it was built by a rich nobleman whose son became lost, and he offered a reward to the person who found him, and said he would erect a statue of his child doing what he was when found. This next statue is the statue of the King of Jerusalem during the Crusades of the 13th century. And here is the Palace of Justice in Brussels. A view of Brussels. After arriving in Germany, we visited the Cologne Cathedral, and here is a picture of the tomb of the 3 wise men who were said to be buried here in the Cologne Cathedral. The Rhine River in Germany. One of the many castles in Germany, the Lahnich Schloss. The city of St. Goar on the Rhine. From my room at the Deutscher Hof Hotel, I saw this view and looked out my window, took a picture, and recorded this. A barge is now going by on the Rhine River that I can see from my hotel window. And here we see and hear Rudolph at night. And here is a fruit stand in Frankfurt. And a view from my window in Rothenburg, where you can hear the bells of a clock there. Rothenburg, one of the few cities untouched by destruction of war, has its original city walls. Here is the walkway through the inner gate, or the inner wall. And here we see the gate to the inner city from the outside. And here is a view down the street of the outer city. Here is a view of the former moat around the inner gate. As you can see, there were 2 gates to most of the cities. with the inner gate having the moat around it. And here is a view from the gate tower. This is the clock tower gate. This is the Hofbrauhaus in München, where Hitler held several meetings. This is the Stigkeller restaurant in Salzburg, Austria. You hear the band playing. This is me in the Stigkeller restaurant. And here are some dancers at the Stigkeller. Here are some men dancers doing what I call a clap and stomp dance. And here we hear a lady yodeling with a zither. And we leave the Stigkeller to see the Garden Mirabell, the Mirabell Palace. And here we see Mozart's birthplace and a castle from St. Peter's courtyard. And here are the catacombs which the Romans built. The gardens at Hellbrunn Palace. And this is the palace that you have seen in The Sound of Music. And here we have the famous Vienna Woods. And this is the orchestra in the Kursalan Palace in Salzburg. And this is me at the table in Kursalan. here we have some dancers at Tursalan. Here is the Schönbrunn Palace with 1,000 rooms, and the garden of Schönbrunn. This is the private conference room, one of the private conference rooms in Schönbrunn. And the gardens of Francis Joseph at Schönbrunn. This is Belvedere Palace. And here are just some children cutting up in Vienna, Austria. And at a small wine tasting city called Grünzing, we heard this small band playing. And on we go to Simmering Pass. And here at Simmering Pass, notice how the hay is stacked on 3 sticks, forming a tripod. And here is Graz in Austria. Here are some Austrian children with their knapsacks on their back. These are the Dolomite Mountains at the Austria-Italy border. These mountains are part of the Alps. And now we are at the Grand Canal in Venice, Italy. This is the Rialto Bridge, also in Venice. Until the 1900s, it was the only bridge across the Grand Canal. And here is St. Mark's Church in Venice. And St. Mark's Square. And the clock tower. It changes time once every 5 minutes. The bell tower and St. Mark's Church. Here we see a common pastime in St. Mark's Square, feeding the pigeons. This is the State Library at St. Mark's Square. Here is a sculpture which caught my eye. It's a sculpture of the Judgment of Solomon, when the 2 women both said that the child was theirs, and so Solomon said that he would split the child in half, and that each one of them have half of him. And here is Doge's palace. And here is some glass blowing, which is one of the most famous things that Venice is known for. And now to Florence. We see the bell tower at Giotto. And also we see here in Florence the first Pietà, which was sculptured by Michelangelo. Pietà means sorrow. It is a sculpture of the body of Christ being taken down from the cross. This one shows Mary Magdalene, the mother of Mary, plus Joseph of Arimathea. The other Pietàs do not have all three of them in it. Just Christ and Mary. And now at Signora Square in Florence, a sculpture in brass of the Medusa, which comes from a Greek myth. And here is the statue of Neptune, also in Signora Square. Monte Cassino, near Rome, was a monastery once used by Hitler as his headquarters. And here we see a young boy who is an apprentice training to work with cameos in a cameo factory. And here we are at Sorrento, Italy. And here we see Sorrento from the boat, leaving for the Isle of Capri. And looking out the other direction, we see the Isle of Capri.
Winding ride up around the cliffs of the Isle of Capri. I don't know why they wrote that song. It was the Isle of Queen, I guess.
And here, after that wild ride up to the top of the Capri, we see the harbor at the Isle of Capri. Proceeding on, we get to the ancient city of Pompeii. In 79 AD, the city of Pompeii was completely covered with volcanic ash from Mount Vesuvius as it erupted. Excavation was begun in 1748, and here we see the plaster casts formed from the cavity left by this man's body. And here is some food preserved by the volcanic dust. And a dog trapped by the ash. You can see the pain he was in as the hot ash fell upon him. This is the basilica in the ruins of Pompeii. And here is a view of Mount Vesuvius, the once active volcano that completely covered this city of Pompeii. In this scene you see some ruins of Pompeii with Mount Vesuvius in the background. Here are the remains of some chariot ruts in an old cobblestone road and the stepping stones across the road. And now we switch to the very modern contrast. This traffic jam in Naples. No, this is not a parking lot. This is the street. We were in this jam for about 2 hours. No love lost between me and Naples. Here is a view of Mount Vesuvius as seen from Naples. Next we arrive at Vatican City, the center of the Roman Catholic Church. Here in Vatican City we go into St. Peter's Church and we see another Pietà as sculptured by Michelangelo. In Rome, the Egyptian needle brought from the circus where Peter was crucified. Here we see the Pantheon and obelisk, which are over 1,800 years old. The interior of the Pantheon has only one hole in the ceiling, no windows. And here we see Victor Emmanuel Monument. And proceeding on, we see the interior of the Roman Colosseum. This is the Constantine Arch outside the Colosseum. And some views of the exterior of the famous Roman Colosseum. And here is another famous statue by Michelangelo, the statue of Moses, which is found in the Church of St. Peter in Chains. Here are some of the catacombs where the Romans buried their dead. The early Christians met down here at the time that they were being persecuted. The Christians did not live in the catacombs, however, but only went down there to worship. The people would not be suspicious when they saw them going down into there, because it was very common to be going down into the catacombs to be tending to the dead or to the graves. These catacombs being dug out of dirt, not rock, you might wonder why they don't collapse. It is because of the moisture in the soil. Keeps it very firm and solid. And here, the Fountain of Tivoli in Rome. Here's an outdoor market in Rome, and a fish stand where such mouth-watering delicacies as squid and stingrays are to be bought. Delicious sounding. And now we see a scene from the top of the Leaning Tower of Pisa, built in the 12th century. Galileo performed many of his experiments there about gravity. You can see the city of Pisa from the top of the Leaning Tower. And here we have a statue of Romulus and Remus, the legendary children who were the beginning of Roman history. Supposedly they were raised by a she-wolf. Here's a panoramic view of the cathedral and the Leaning Tower at Pisa. And here is the baptistry. Moving on to France, we see the palace in Monte Carlo. And this is the harbor of Monte Carlo. The resort city of Nice on the Riviera. Here we see our bus decorated in red, white, and blue for the 4th of July, which happened to occur during our vacation. And now back to the Palace of Popes in Aguinaldo. During the 12th century, a division in the Catholic Church caused one group to move here. And a sunset in France. This is the flower clock in Geneva, Switzerland. And here we see the Russian church built by the white Russian immigrants. And here is a statue of Roger Williams, who brought religious freedom to the New World and founded Providence, Rhode Island. There are also statues of other men who have fought for religious freedom, and this group of statues is titled "Out of Darkness Comes Light." And in Geneva, the highest man-made fountain. And here we come to the United Nations building. Here's a committee room in the UN that since 1962 has had the disarmament committee meetings. This memorial was built to honor Woodrow Wilson, who was instrumental in the beginning of the United Nations. Here are some Swiss homes. Notice the long overhanging eaves on the roofs for the melting snow. The bridge and river at Bern, Switzerland, the capital of Switzerland. Here are some bear pits in Bern, as the bear is a symbol of Bern. These bear pits have been here for over 800 years. Not the same bears, I don't believe. And here is the clock tower in Bern. And another Swiss house. The unusual shape of these Alp hills was caused by the pressure of tons of ice on the top of them. And here is Lake Lucerne. And the Witches Bridge in Lucerne, Switzerland. Here are some paintings that represent a story of the Witches Bridge. And a view from the other side of the Witches Bridge. This is the old water tower bridge and fortress. And the paintings on the inside of it. This is the view from the bridge. And here is the Lion Monument of Lucerne, Switzerland. It's built in memory of the Swiss Guard. And this is the street of flags of the different provinces of Switzerland. This is a German class on a field trip from Germany to Lucerne and the other parts of Switzerland. The interesting thing about this class was they don't get out of their homework even while on a field trip. Their teacher carries around a pocket full of little cards with homework assignments on them for them to do while they're on their trip. Sound like fun? And returning again to, one more time, to France, we return to Paris, Concorde Square. We see the old Egyptian obelisk in the background. And the Arch of Triumph, which was built in honor of Napoleon's victories for France. And here I am standing by the Arch of Triumph. This is the place where the Paris peace talks are held. The Eiffel Tower. And this is the Royal Chapel des Armées. Napoleon's tomb, and we find that Napoleon is buried inside this tomb, and there are 6 coffins, one inside the other. Seems like they don't want him to get out. And this is the altar in the Royal Chapel. And here we see a sculpture at the entrance to Notre Dame. Looks like someone lost their head. Inside Notre Dame is this stained glass window from the 17th century. This is Notre Dame from the outside. This is Church Magdalena. And here we see a typical continental breakfast. Rolls, hard rolls, butter, and perhaps marmalade, and coffee. Not much like what we're accustomed to here. And here we have Concordia Square again in Paris. And this is the island of Old Paris. Here we see the island of Old Paris with the bridges that cross over to it. Here we see some bookstalls along the Seine River in Paris. Sell books, old books, new books, plus sketchings, drawings. This is the subway, or the metro as it is called in France, and inside the metro. After the tour was over, I took the metro to the train station and took a train back to Switzerland. In Switzerland, all men between the ages of 18 and 60 are in the army. These 2 men are carrying their guns to the rifle range. Each man owns his own weapon. there you hear them practicing on their rifle range. Here is a typical cellar door. As you can see, the Swiss people are prepared to go underground for as long as 11 years in case of war. However, the Swiss do not think only of war. Here is an old-fashioned merry-go-round. And we continue on from here to Strasbourg. Strasbourg is more German in nature, although it is in France. It is in a part of France that used to belong to Germany. And here are some scenes that I took while in Strasbourg. And from Strasbourg, we continue into Germany and into the Black Forest. The Black Forest is famous for its wood carvings and its chocolate. And here is a view of Gischingen near Stuttgart in Germany. And now we see the Zugspitze. The Zugspitze is the highest mountain in Germany. We ascended up the Zugspitze on a railway, part way, and then to the summit we went by cable car. Then coming back down the Zugspitze in a cable car. We saw this man hiking up the mountain as we were coming down the Zugspitze. And we saw Lake Eibsee. Which is halfway up the Zugspitze mountain. Coming down from Lake Eibsee, we took the Zugsbahn, German railroad, coming back down from Zugspitz. And now I'm walking down a path in Partenkirchen. Garmisch-Partenkirchen is two twin cities that have grown together to be a resort town in the southern part of Germany, in Bavaria. Noticed along the walkway a cross along the roadside. And then I came to the Partnach River. And as I continued further on, I came to the Partnach Klamm. You can hear the water rushing through it. A Klamm is the German word for gorge. Some beautiful scenes here with the Partnach Klamm. And here's me standing at the Partnach Klamm. And further along the way is a boy in typical hiking costume on the same road. Many people were hiking this day as it was a very fine day. And here we see Garmisch, the small city part of the twin cities Garmisch-Partenkirchen, and the mountains around Garmisch. Each evening they hold a concert at what they call the Court Theater in Garmisch, and I attended it. And then I proceeded on to visit my pen pals in Bavaria. My pen pal Joseph will narrate this tour for you. First, the Befreiungshalle.
It was built on 1863 from Ludwig I. The other picture shows the Danube and the Klüstel. Now you see the Befreiungshalle inside. The other picture shows Illerstein from the Befreiungshalle. Now you see our family photographed on the Befreiungshalle. This shows the Altmühltal valley from a castle tower. Me and my family in front of my house.
And here at Joseph Ripple's house is a typical German dinner consisting of Leberknödel and Reiberknödel. And from there we go to Dietfurt, another small city, and see some children there attending a concert in a beer zelt, which means beer tent. Here we see the other family to which I write in Germany, the Bender family. And now we see Dietfurt from the mountainside. Dietfurt is called the city of 7 valleys. There's 7 valleys enter into where Dietfurt is found. And now we see a game of Schach. And Schach, of course, is chess, the very international game. And now here is a German lad on the train from Regensburg to Duisburg, and listen while he tells you a typical German children's joke.
Amerikaner
An American
und
and
Engländer
Englishman
streiten sich.
argued over the submarines.
Der Amerikaner sagt,
The Amerikaner
unsere
said,
U-Boote können 2
our
Wochen
submarine can stay
unter
2
Wasser
weeks
bleiben.
underwater.
Der Engländer lacht und
The
erwidert,
Englishman laughed and
unsere
answered,
U-Boote
our
können 2
submarine can
Wochen
stay underwater
und 5
2 weeks
Tage
and
unter
5
Wasser
days.
bleiben. Da taucht ein deutsches U-Boot auf.
Then a
Ein
German
Mann
submarine appeared.
klappt den Deckel auf,
A man unlatched the hatch,
kommt hervor und ruft,
came forward and called,
Hi Hitler, ist der Krieg schon zu Ende?
Heil Hitler, is the war over yet? Well, typical German joke. And here we see, traveling along the Rhine on the train, the Rheinpfalz being renovated, and some Schlösser, or castles. And the legendary Lorelei Rock. Sailors are said to have lost their lives here while listening to the singing of the beautiful maiden on Lorelei, and then smashing into the rocks. And here we see the peaceful Rhine as we end our trip through Germany.